This is a regular city council meeting of the city of Ocean Shores. It's February 24th, 2026. The time is 6 p.m. The meeting is being held at the Ocean Shores Convention Center. The meetings are simulcast and archived on KOSW radio. Meetings are live streamed with closed captioning and may be accessed on the city website under council recordings. The meetings can be viewed on cable channel 68 Thursdays at 12 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Sires?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Griebel?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Scott?
Here.
Councilmember Wills?
Here.
Councilmember Dooley?
Here. Can we have approval of tonight's agenda? Oh, thank you. Tom, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, now can we have a approval of tonight's agenda?
I would like to make a motion to amend tonight's agenda and have item 3, public communication to council, move to item after item 11.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
I wanted to kind of just do a brief statement.
All right.
We met last night for 3 hours with about a hour and a half of communication to council regarding the sanctuary city. And we have we have a few items on tonight's agenda, and each item on the agenda has a public comment. We have staff that we're paying to be here overtime, and I would like to just request that our public communication be moved to item 11 so that we can get through city business, get staff on their way home, so they can come back tomorrow morning. We're still here to answer those or listen to your communications. I just, my request is to get city business done before we handle that.
All right, council, all in favor?
Aye.
We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Sires?
Yes.
Councilmember Sires is a yes. Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
In the microphone. Councilmember Taylor is a yes. Councilmember Griebel?
No.
Councilmember Griebel is a no. Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein is a yes. Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott is a yes. Councilmember Wills?
No.
Councilmember Wills is a no. Councilmember Dooley?
Yes.
Councilmember Dooley is a yes. That's 5 yeses, 2 noes. Motion passes.
All right, so it'll be item between 11 and 12 for public comment. All right, we don't have any ceremonies or proclamations today. Announcements, board and vacancies and committee vacancies. We got 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission.
You got to approve as amended. Sorry.
Oh, thanks.
I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lisa, were you a yes for that? All right, we need another roll call.
Councilmember Sires?
Yes.
Councilmember Sires is a yes. Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor is a yes. Councilmember Griebel?
No.
Councilmember Griebel is a no. Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein is a yes. Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott is a yes. Councilmember Wills?
Yes.
Councilmember Wills is a yes. Councilmember Dooley?
Yes.
Councilmember Dooley is a yes. That's 6 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
All right, thanks. Board and committee vacancies. We have 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission, 2 vacancies on the Parks Board, and 3 vacancies on the Fresh Waterways Advisory Committee. Appointments, I would like to reappoint Jim Fitzgerald and Janet Grant to the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board with council consensus. All right, thank you. We have no reports, staff reports or anything today, so we do have one from Scott Andersen, our city administrator.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens. I'll make this quick just because I knew we were going to have a lot of public comment tonight following the meeting last night. The only update I'll give you is this is something that a lot of citizens probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about, but we do have an airport in Ocean Shores, and it actually requires a great deal of constant sort of bureaucratic maintenance because of the overlapping jurisdictions. Of course, we have the FAA at the federal level, and then we have the Washington State Department of Transportation. There's a lot of things that need to be done as we move forward on the airport. But we are in the process right now of working with the Airport Advisory Committee to install a new AWAS system that will respond to inclement weather conditions and allow emergency vehicles to land. 90% of that will be paid for by the FAA. 5% of that will be paid for by the Washington State Department of Transportation, and then the city will kick in the remaining 5%. There's advantages to our pilots that makes it simply much safer to land in inclement weather conditions. But there's huge advantages to our citizens if we need to be medevaced out or if we have an emergency. And at the next city council meeting, I'll be bringing forward a resolution that will allow us to move forward with an AWAS system. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thanks, Scott. Council liaison reports and committee reports. We'll start with Kurt.
I attended the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board for Public Works Project Manager Becky Leach. Introduced Terry McNabb from Aquatechnix, the lake and aquatic management company that will be helping implement the work outlined in the Herrera report. They also elected new board leadership, the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board, and they provided a recommendation to the council about levels of service rather than just giving us a menu of choices since we needed their technical guidance. I also attended the Public Safety Committee where Emergency Manager Mike Mandela says he's working on a slew of plans to help the city. And Fire Chief Ritter updated the group on the South Fire Station. And then I also signed warrants.
All right, thanks. Richard.
Thank you. I attended the Hotel Coalition, and the most significant thing there is Mayor Elduin attended also and explained, talked about the dune vegetation plan and informed all of the hotel who attends that coalition what the city is doing to try to help the hotels control that vegetation. So thank you, Mayor Frank. That was very helpful. I also attended the Parks Board meeting, and that was Kristen Hartman's last meeting. She said something that I wanted to repeat. Her quote is, "If you do the right thing for the right reasons, you will always be on the right side of your own conscience." I think that's a worthwhile quote. I also attended the library board, and the most significant thing there is the library now you can check out pickleball paddles and equipment, and I think you can keep them for a week. And so you can go try pickleball without making an investment, and then if you like it, then let your wallet be your guide. I have no idea what's involved with pickleball expense, but that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Lisa Scott.
Attended agenda setting and Public Works, and our Public Works Director, Ricardo Victoriano, will be talking about several of the things that were discussed at our meeting for Public Works on the agenda tonight. And Tim Hiles gave an update on the grant projects, looking to apply for a grant for some parks work, and then also talked about the brick grant. Hopefully we'll be hearing something soon on that being released, and hopefully we'll be getting our money for that. And then also I was appointed the city's representative to the Public Facilities District that the county sponsors.
All right, thanks. Denise.
I also signed warrants. I attended agenda setting. I was also appointed to the Grays Harbor Public Facilities District as the LTAC representative. And it is now time for an annual review of the council guidelines. So I have appointed a committee of Allison Klein and Lisa Griebel on that ad hoc committee to work with me to review the guidelines, and we will be presenting them at our council retreat, which we're still looking to finalize the date on.
All right. Allison.
I attended the Public Safety Committee meeting and Public Works Committee meeting, and you've already gotten the reports from Council Members Scott and Julie on those. And I will attend Finance later this week.
Right, Lisa Griebel?
Thank you, Mayor. I did not get to attend our town hall where our mayor and staff recapped all the progress we've made in our past couple of years, but I did watch it. And I did want to it was really well done. It was great hearing about all the progress that our town is making, and I appreciated the shout outs that council got from various staff members about working with our council, whether it was through budget allocations or their work on committees. So I enjoyed the town hall. I also attended Public Works and appreciated the recap and the reassurance that the South Fire Station will be repainted again this summer. So lots of comments from people. I live down in that area, so a lot of comments from our neighbors about the current colors. So I've been reassuring them that it is going to be, that's just a primer and it is going to be painted again. And also heard from the staff at Public Works, again, about how excited they are about the projected March opening of our new clinic in town, and just so excited about that opportunity for our community, and just grateful again for our council that approved those ARPA funds. We were trying to remember how much money from ARPA, from the I think it was $600,000 to $650,000 that we used from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act to fund that clinic. So again, great work, all of us together for that.
All right, thanks. Tom? You got to talk into your mic.
Should be on. It is. Been on since it started. I attended the public safety. I also had coffee with Frank. I was here last night. I'm very proud of the way almost everybody handled himself last night. I was standing in the back, but I was actually surprised that it flowed the way it did. Thank you all. And also reviewed the radio boards last meeting.
All right, thanks. There'll be no mayor's report tonight. Consent agenda, we got to approve this in two pieces. We'd like to get an approval for the meeting on January 27th.
I move to approve the consent agenda for the meeting on January 27th.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And then we've got to approve for the special meeting on February 2nd.
I move to approve the minutes for the special city council meeting on February 12th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. We don't have any old business, new business. There's an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, repealing and replacing Chapter 7.25 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, offenses involving firearms and weapons, retitled Firearms, Projectiles, and Electrical Weapons, adopting certain state statutes by reference regulating the discharge and handling of firearms and other weapons within the city limits, providing definitions, exceptions, penalties, servability, and an effective date. And that'll be presented by our city administrator, Scott Andersen, Police Chief Nikki Logan, Deputy Chief Carrie Vesco, and our wildlife representative, Scott Harris.
Scott, do you want to come up and take the podium here? It'll be this. I think it's going to be most of the Scott and Scott show, but we can call on our police if need be. And while he's going to the podium, I'll just say this is Scott Harris from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We worked in the Department of Fish and Wildlife to draft these next two ordinances that are coming before you. And these are really public safety ordinances that sort of plug a loophole that have existed within the city. And it's really just kind of clarifying language for what it is we're doing and trying to do. So the reason it has a kind of the title that it has, and it deals with firearms, projectiles, and electronic weapons, is because there's been a misperception that you can't really hunt in the city of Ocean Shores. And that's not entirely true. You could hunt with bow and arrow in the city of Ocean Shores, and that technically, as long as it's not too near a house or too near certain areas, could be legal. And we're plugging that loophole because the problem is the city of Ocean Shores does not have the authority or the jurisdiction to regulate hunting. That belongs solely to the discretion of the Department of Fish and Wildlife. What we can eliminate and what we can have jurisdiction over as the city of Ocean Shores is the discharge of firearms, electronic weapons, and arrows. So from a public safety perception. So that is what this new ordinance is doing. And I'll just walk you through it. And this is why it says, in the language, it reduces that ambiguity. So this would make it so you could not fire or discharge arrows in the city of Ocean Shores, any type of weapon in the city of Ocean Shores, with an exception that follows in here. And that, I'll just kind of walk you through a few things. So this does not apply for lawful defense or self-defense purposes. That's spelled out in Article 4. It does not apply to flare guns or emergency signaling devices to summon distress or an aid of emergency. It also does not apply to the jurisdictions that are the Department of the Fish and Wildlife that exist within the city limits of Ocean Shores, and that is the Oyhut Wildlife Preserve and out at the airport where the Department of Fish and Wildlife also has land, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife would maintain discretion for that entirely. What it does allow, it allows for the bull fishing of carp, which is currently licensed and regulated by the Department of Fish and Wildlife, because we have a major carp problem within our fresh waterways, and allowing for bow hunting under very strict conditions would allow us to address that. And it would basically be conducted in a manner that ensures public safety. You would have to use an arrow equipped with a barbed head and a line that would be attached to the bow so that you could retrieve it. It wouldn't sit out there and sit in our fresh waterways. And so really it's a way of making sure that weapons are not discharged in the city, but not including the phrase hunting whatsoever in that, since that is not our purview. And Scott, we worked together on this. We've gone over this with our attorneys. Fish and Wildlife is happy with it, but I'll turn it over to you for any comments you might have.
As far as the firearms or the no discharge ordinance, we support it. I think it's consistent with other cities, and it's bringing it up to a more modern standard. Some people, there's sometimes some misconceptions with the archery hunting or archery fishing. It is an accepted method. It's done in a lot of lakes, and it's the projectile is quite a bit different than a normal arrow. They don't fly as far. They don't have all the razor sharp blades, and they are attached with a string. So I know some people think of an arrow going off in space. That doesn't happen in this scenario when they're using the legal equipment that is used in, like say, there's quite a few lakes more in eastern Washington where this is a pretty common practice, and it is, and I have to say it's probably one of the cheaper ways for the city to try and control the grass carp issue. There's lots of people that, I kind of reading online where, some areas, they go in, they can electrofish them. That's actually very expensive and not as easily said as done, because do you know where all the fish are? You have to kind of zap the whole lake and hope for the best. And I can guarantee you're not going to get them. So I think it's a pretty cost-effective way for the city to try and manage their fresh waterways.
And again, I know there's a lot of people in Ocean Shores that love their deer and don't want that, but the real point of that is, it is in part for the deer. We don't want people firing arrows, but also we don't want people getting hit. And this closes that loophole entirely. And with that, I guess.
Can I add something to that, Scott?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I kind of glossed over that. I'm a hunter, been a hunter long before I was ever a biologist or a wildlife conflict specialist. I've seen lots of mistakes happen out in the field, and so I do strongly support these discharge ordinances, especially with modern equipment. And that's just kind of add that, because some of my counterparts have areas where it's pretty much a wide open deer season, you know, and it's highly populated, and the amount of deer we're chasing around with arrows in them because of bad shots, you know, it just, to me, it's like, we don't need all the calls, you know, and so, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and we're unique in that we have thousands of plotted lots. They aren't particularly large in size. People discharging a weapon can easily end up hitting a civilian.
All right, do we have any public comment? Yes, go ahead. You want to go to the mic, please?
All right, my concern was how does this affect lasers? Lasers, whether they're being played with or whatever. And that concerns me. If people can sit outside the airport and put lasers on a plane, either coming in or going out, doesn't matter. That concerns me, and I want to be sure that that's covered. Okay? Right now, it sounds like I'm not trying to kill anything with this laser, so it shouldn't have any effect, right? But it could. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know.
All right, thanks. Yeah, go ahead in the back.
Thank you, Council. Susan Canary. On the bow hunting, on the packet that you have, and I think Scott just alluded to it, in the manner of safety, what is the manner of safety? I think given the fact that this is going to be something new in Ocean Shores, that you might want to have something a little bit more definitive. And also, I've heard that the carp bow hunting will be at night with lights. And that, I think, might be of concern to some of the people that live around the lake. So it might not be a bad idea to let them know that this might be happening, I guess, day or night. And what about drinking? Do we allow people to go out on the lake and drink and use their bows to go after carp? Just a question. I have no idea. I'm assuming that that's probably allowed. But it doesn't sound like a good mix to me. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Yes, go ahead.
James Pace. I am the secretary of the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board, and we've done a lot of work on this. We've looked at different cities and what they've done with the bow fishing. This is totally separate than being able to currently be able to bow hunt a deer, and so it's two separate things. So I think we need to just make that clear that the bow fishing ordinance would be allowed to where we're trying to close the loop to where people can't be firing and firing a bow at a deer with a loose arrow. Bow fishing, the arrow is tethered on a really strong line and its projection is down into the water. As far as people drinking, anyone who goes out hunting, who's ever hunted or anything like that, should probably know better than to be out drinking with anything that, you're out shooting. So maybe it'll be an issue, maybe it won't. But we've done a lot of work on this, and we've talked to a lot of different cities, including up to Moses Lake, and we've also talked to different groups who've fished up in Lake Washington. And there's been no problems. We haven't had any reports of any issues from any of those cities or any of the people that we talked to about the bow fishing. The carp are causing a huge problem in our waterways. They were put there years ago, and most residents that live here understand that process and what happened. But due to the research that we currently have, the research is showing that these carp are destroying our waterways. And until there's a way that we can safely harvest these carp, our waterways are not going to turn around. So if people want fresh waterways where their kids and pets can swim, this has to be part of that, the carp removal. from our waterways for that to be able to take place. The electrocuting them doesn't work. It's not as safe because then it electrocutes all the other fish in the lake as well. This is a very specific and targeted way to remove the carp from our waterways, and I think it's a great idea.
All right, we have any other, yes, go ahead.
Charlie Austin. Probably main question for Scott, but I'm all in. I've got a longbow. My question is, can you shoot the carp from a dock as well, public dock?
Yeah, I'd have to look at, so there are, in the fishing regulations, the carp hunting, or carp fishing, using a bow for fishing for carp rules are in there.
You're not supposed to answer. It's
Yeah.
like a,
I'll explain what the problem
thank you.
They're hearing it in this room, but yeah. Well, you yeah, supposed to be, you're not supposed to be answering at all. But second of all, then no one on the radio can hear you right now or watching on TV. So, but we can come back. We can circle back to it.
Yeah.
And, okay, so.
We'll get your question answered.
All right.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Tom Litz, Ocean Shores. The question is, I know it's bow hunting for the carp or shooting with a bow. How about if people are concerned with that, can we possibly gig them like you used to, like for frogs or whatever, with a longer handled spear, something like that? Thanks.
All right, any other questions? Anybody else want to speak? Yes, go ahead. Yep, you're up.
As usual, I had a brainstorm while this was going on. Why can't we have a carp derby and tie it into our kids' fishing derby and pay a premium and get some people down here at the same time? Just a thought.
All right, any other public comment out there? Not seeing any. Turn it over to the council. I would like to ask Scott to answer the fishing question that that speaker had.
So I didn't bring the fishing regs with me, but I don't believe there's anything that requires them to be in a boat to fish. But at the same time, you know, if they're going to be on their property, it's fine. They still need permission to be on somebody else's property. You know, there's, like I say, the longbows, recurves, they all work.
All right, great. Council, any questions? Yeah, Richard.
Thank you. I'd like to make just a couple of comments. And for background, I was on the Fresh Waterways Corporation for, 7 or 8 years and did a lot of research on the grass carp. And they were a great idea. I think they were introduced around 1996, but they're a great idea that failed. And unfortunately, those darn carp insist on pooping. And what they do is they pre-digest the vegetation, and then when they release that, it just accelerates how the nutrients are added to the water. So they are a real problem. I was on the Fresh Waterways Liaison last year when this was discussed with Fish and Wildlife, and I love Lillian's idea. It was discussed on the Fresh Waterways board at that time, and it is a potential great moneymaker, and it is also a real potential to have a drastic impact on reducing the number of carp. There's a question about whether the carp are fertile or not. They're all supposed to be unfertile, but there's apparently carp this big, and the carp have been there for 20 years. That doesn't compute. So yes, I'm 100% in favor of bow hunting, grass carp, and there is a need, and it is a potential moneymaker if we have carp bow hunting tournaments. And there's a lot of people who really love bow hunting. So I'm all in favor of that, and there's some background. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? Yes, Lisa Griebel and then Allison.
Thank you, Mayor. To date myself, I was on the council when we closed the loophole and created the ordinance to actually prohibit bow hunting of carp on the lake. And that was in response to community members that were concerned about arrows being left in the lake and were concerned about safety. I do put a lot of trust in Scott Harris, and if he's supportive of this, then I will be supportive of this. But I do think that I spend a lot of time on the waterways, and I do lots of screaming when the carp scare me. So I'm sure all the everyone that lives in the lake will be enjoying a quieter summer because they will not hear me shrieking every time a carp comes up out of the water and scares me.
Go ahead, Allison.
So, bow fishing is already addressed in the Washington State fishing regulations. So has all of that information been transferred into this ordinance?
The ordinance effectively, if I'm reading it correctly, refers people to read the regulations because they can change at times. But it just basically says the rules would be consistent with whatever the state regulations are on that.
Yeah, you are entirely correct. If you look at 9A on page 21 of your packet, it cites the WAC 2020-300-160 for bow and arrow fishing, and we're just going to follow the state guidelines on that.
All right, go ahead, Kurt.
I understand the intent of this, and I agree with it fully. Just in the interest of absolute clarity, though, for Scott, does this ordinance change anything with regard to the lawful possession or carrying of firearms?
Nope. On item 10 on page 21, nothing in this chapter shall be construed to abridge the right of any individual guaranteed by Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution to bear arms in defense of self or others. And then on Section 4 of item 8, lawful defense of self or others is provided by RCW 9A16. So no.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll throw in one last one just because it was addressed. And just happy to have the right person here because you got our airport advisor. So a laser is not considered a tactical weapon. However, the FAA has jurisdiction on shining lasers into planes. That is a felony, and that'll be turned into federal law enforcement, and they will deal with that issue, not the city.
Yes, Lisa.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, repealing and replacing Chapter 7.25 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, offenses involving firearms and weapons, retitled Firearms, Projectiles, and Electrical Weapons, adopting certain state statutes by reference, regulating the discharge and handling of firearms and other weapons within city limits, providing definitions, expectations, penalties, servability, and effective date.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Thank you. It's unanimous. I do want to say, answer the one question. The public or the Fresh Waterways has already been in contact with some organizations that have carp tournaments. So we think it'll be a good thing. It'll bring people into town, and it'll be a good thing for everybody. Yes.
And I just wanted to thank bringing up the lasers at the airport. As a pilot, it is incredibly, not just distracting, it's incredibly dangerous, whether you're taking off or whether you're landing. And it is a felony. So thank you for bringing that up.
All right, next up, we got an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, repealing and replacing Chapter 8.20 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code entitled Hunting and Trapping, with a new chapter entitled Trapping, updating and clarifying regulations, providing for humane animal management practices, protecting public safety, wildlife, and animal welfare, providing for servability and establishing effective date, and that'll be presented by Scott Andersen and Scott Harris.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council, again, and citizens.
Mayor,
Yeah.
can we take a quick break? I'm having an issue with the stream on the website.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's take 5 minutes. All right.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. All right, we're back in action here. So, next up is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, repealing and replacing Chapter 8.20 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code entitled Hunting and Trapping with a new chapter entitled Trapping, updated and clarifying regulations, providing for humane animal management practices, protecting public safety, wildlife and animal welfare, providing for servability and establishing an effective date, presented by City Administrator Scott Andersen and our wildlife representative Scott Harris.
All right, let's try this again. Thank you, Mayor, Council, citizens. This is an ordinance that comes before us because we've had a series of complex issues that have happened in the city. It's once again a repeal and replace part. And we are just trying to close a loophole to make things very, very clear. And it's bifurcated into two sections. And one concerns the trapping of actual wildlife. We've got rid of all the language that called it fur-bearing versus non-fur-bearing animals. It seems to confuse a lot of people. But this is going to set forth clear and enforceable requirements for the humane trapping of domestic dogs and cats for animal welfare purposes. Something that that has been going on in the city, but it was in this kind of quasi-legal realm. This will officially make that legal, but it will also take over part of something we asked the Planning Commission to look at, which is what happens with nuisance wildlife and how do we go about that. So I'll walk you through this very briefly. The first part is the wildlife control operators. So let's say that you literally have a beaver that is eating through your house, or you have, an animal that's really causing you problems and doing damage. This will allow, and this will not be a city function, wildlife control operators, licensed and certified wildlife control operators, may conduct trapping activities within the city limits for the purpose of mitigating verified threats to public safety. And then the rest of that will go on to, there's a process as to how we are notified, and the wildlife trapping officer, or the wildlife, what is it actually called? Wildlife control officer will notify either myself, the city administrator, and or the public safety officer, which would be our chief of police. And this trapping, this will only be done, let's say we do have to trap an animal, it will only be utilized after all reasonable preventive measures and non-lethal deterrents have been implemented and documented. We don't want people just going out and killing our wildlife. There's a lot of places where you could just put up a fence around a tree if a beaver is getting to it. A lot of simple steps that can be taken first. We want to make sure that gets done first before we actually start removing our wildlife from the city. But in the event that that really doesn't solve the problem and it continues to do damage, this is a way to take it out of the city's hands, put it in a licensed wildlife operator, and allow that to move forward. The second part is something that's kind of vexed Ocean Shores for years, and that we have an individual here and who's very, very passionate about rescuing cats and dogs that get lost, they get outside the home, they can't be found, and it technically wasn't entirely legal. It fell in a gray zone. So we sat down and we talked to Scott Harris in the Department of Fish and Wildlife and said, what is a way that people can get their pets back? And at the same time, we don't create nuisance problems. And we came up with a system where a permit would be required. It's a very simple permit. You can get it online. It's only $15. You would fill out the application. There are conditions for that permit. And it sets the parameters for what the traps have to have too. The traps have to be checked every 2 hours when they're set. They have to have a camera. Trapped animals have to be dealt with humanely, and then there's some other regulations for how that goes about working. And because we have code enforcement we have 2 code enforcement officers, they're available 7 days a week. They can just report that. So they will get a permit. It will go to the city administrator's office and or the public safety officer, and then we will do notifications so that we know that those traps are being monitored. But this way we can hopefully get people their pets back in a lawful and humane way. And Scott, I know that we've worked at length on this. I'll turn it over to you for a minute.
Yeah, we've worked at length on it. I'm not sure what you want to hear. We've, I think what, one, I do have to do a shout out for the people who wrote this, these ordinances. They've done a great job. And a lot of what this ordinance does is it does bring in, to me, it kind of, it starts to, it adopts a lot of the current state laws, but more of kind of with an Ocean Shores flair to it, because the state laws are more, much more looser on stuff. So this kind of helps the city control and the city know what's going on as far as from a, if there is a nuisance wildlife problem. I don't, just knowing what goes on in my area, I just spent some time today kind of reviewing what WUCOs get. I don't really expect much use for WUCOs, or what we call the wildlife control operators, WUCOs. And I do think, Ocean Shores, as far as on a domestic animal problem, we have situations throughout the state, but it's just with Ocean Shores, there's a concern, and I think there needs to be control there. I think the police department needs to know what's going on when traps are set. And, on the part in there where the animal control officers, if there's something, or if they can call me, just, if we, by happenstance, get an animal, a non-target animal, and a lot of them you can release, but sometimes you need the, there's preferred immobilization techniques. Well, there's only a few of us in the state that, and that are, trained, have the equipment, and have the immobilization drugs with us that can respond. And if I happen to be gone for the weekend, and we've caught a non-target animal that's maybe, it gets a little hairy, and so now do we leave the animal in there for 48 hours for, or bring somebody in from Spokane, or the worst case scenario is the officer may just have to determine that they have to start euthanizing to create a, because there's a potential risk to the public. In this way, with that communication out there, I can respond, and, we did have a situation with a bear cub. I did have somebody unintentionally capture a cougar here a while back. It was been a few years ago. Things happen. And this way it's controlled, and I think just makes it a little bit easier. My mind's more at ease. So, yeah.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we all know that unless you have an Anatolian Shepherd dog, that bite is stronger than a wolf's. It's a race against time for most of our pets. If they do get out, there's coyotes, there's so many other animals that will hunt them. And so it just allows us to respond quickly. It's a quick online permit process. Everyone is safe. We know exactly where the trap is set, and we can deal with it, and I can communicate with Scott Harris in real time.
All right, thank you. Any public comment out there? Yeah, in the back.
Thank you, Susan Canary. Council, thank you. I look forward to you passing this. As someone who has supported Vivian for many, many years in the work and the effort that she has done, this is a great way for this to have come all the way full circle. So thank you very much for the time and effort put into it. Scott, thank you.
Have any other public comment out there? Not seeing any. Council? Yes, Lisa.
A couple questions. My first is the permit system ready to go? Is it online, ready to go? So if we pass this tonight, that we're ready to operate?
The permit system is ready to go, but we do not have the parameters for this permit set in the system yet. So the answer to that question is no, to my knowledge. If you wanted to wait and do it 2 weeks, we could set up the parameters for that permit system and bring it back. So the system is totally online, but there's a series of check boxes that are unique to this permit, and that has not been set up yet.
Okay. That was one. And my second question would be more to, I know we've kicked this back and forth, and I'm happy we're moving forward, but I want to know, was the police department or code enforcement involved in helping to write this? I know that they're going to be tasked with verifying, permits and making sure that rules are followed. I just want to make sure our police department is comfortable with that, and they were involved in the writing of that. And then the only other thing is, Scott, I'm concerned for you on page 4 of the ordinance itself, where it says the public safety officer or city administrator. Could we just make it public safety officer or their designee, so that, how many permits do you actually as a city administrator approve? And would it make more sense if it was just the police department or who's on duty to approve that?
So I am indifferent if it goes to the public safety officer first. I think we have both, just in case public safety officer is out of town or on vacation and they're gone, and then that's where you would notify me. I mean, it makes much more sense for code enforcement. The whole idea is the system would create an alert. So code enforcement would recognize the validity of the permit. That would then get set off to the public safety officer myself. But then we just know where it is. So.
Okay, and then, so I guess it's just if the police department was involved in helping, right? Because I know we asked that when we sent this back, that they work with Fish and Wildlife to make sure that all of our concerns were dealt with. I mean, I'm happy we're moving forward, but that was a concern in the beginning for me.
And we have discussed this with Deputy Chief Vesco and Chief Logan. We have discussed that with them. I will say, though, there is Section 3, an effective date, that this ordinance shall not be published in the official newspaper or take effect for 30 days after publication. So we would, if you passed it tonight, still have 30 days to get that set up, and I don't think it's going to be that complicated a process. And that is, if you're looking for that, that's on page 8 of the ordinance.
So you feel really comfortable that if we did, our permit system will be up and ready to go?
It would be a very simple fix, yeah.
Thanks. Allison?
I've got several questions and concerns with this. First of all, it says this is being presented with Chief Logan and Deputy Chief Vesco. And my question to you is, did you help write this, and do you support this ordinance? Because I cannot support something that is not going to be supported and by our police department. And that was, like Councilmember Scott said, that was one of our main things, is that they be involved in this. But they're not presenting.
Good evening, Deputy Chief Vesco. We did have several sessions with the mayor and with Scott. The ordinance was drafted prior to us arriving there, but we did have the opportunity to review it. We did have some areas of questions with regards to entering private property for the inspection of permits, and we did provide some language for that. And as far as that goes, we are okay with that portion of it. We were just having discussions in the back as to how that would move forward, and turning this over into being more of a code enforcement process where we would train the code enforcement officers and have them handle that portion of enforcement and oversight.
Okay, because that was a huge piece for us as council. I have to say I'm quite concerned because I read this ordinance on Facebook before council ever saw it. It was put out on Facebook, parts of it, that it was coming to us tonight. And so that concerns me, that stuff is getting out to Facebook before we see it.
I can only imagine that would happen if there's a public records request for what we were working on. I don't know how it got on Facebook.
I know
idea.
exactly how it got on Facebook.
Okay.
My other thing is, can anybody apply for a permit for trapping? Or does it have to be someone who is certified? And who verifies that?
If you're talking about the former, it has to be, what is the, when you use the acronym, I hadn't heard it before, but I know what it is. So go ahead, Scott.
So a wildlife control, so I guess, are you talking wildlife or are you talking?
I'm talking cats and dogs.
That would be, more of the city answering it.
Yeah. So if my dog gets loose and I want to set traps, and I want to set multiple traps to get little Smitty home, I pay one $15 fee. Can I do that, or does it have to be someone who is, right, that has some type of certification or something to be able to do it?
So you would have to be in compliance with item C, conditions of the permit. And there's a list, I believe, it's 13 items long. That would be on page 31 of your packet, page 5 of the ordinance.
There.
And you would have to go through all of those processes in order to be able to do that, which means you would have to have a trap that you would have to be dedicating yourself to check it 2 hours. You would also have to have monitoring on that trap. You would have to have a camera. And there are a couple other provisions that I'd highlighted in here. Yeah, and additional traps are required. The permit holder shall report the additional traps to the city.
Okay,
and the
so-
permit shall only be valid, this is important, for a period not to exceed 7 consecutive days unless extended by the public safety officer or the city administrator, because we just don't want these things sitting out there forever.
Well, yeah, that's one of my concerns, that I take these and I set them out all over town. And do I pay a $15 fee for each trap?
No.
Or is it just one and I can put out as many traps as I want and I can move them around all the time that I want?
It's just the one, but no, if you move them, you got to notify us. You got to tell us where you're putting them. We can't just have them like migrate.
Yeah, and then do they also have to pay another permit fee for that?
No, that would be at the end of 7 days. They would if we haven't caught. But we would have the discretion. We've located the animal. We know it's in a certain area. We've almost got it. We've almost had it twice now. Can we keep a trap out? I would not. I would obviously be inclined to letting you catch your doggy.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, Lisa, agreeable.
Thank you, Mayor. So I heard reference to that people who, it was drafted before, the ordinance was drafted before our officers looked at it. So I'm just asking who drafted the ordinance, original one?
There's a number of people that drafted it. I was in part of it. We shared it with Scott Harris. Jane Shattuck was instrumental in doing a lot of the research and writing of this. And there were also, not just with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we had talks with the Department of Ecology. Who was it we spoke with up your chain on your legal team? Because that's where we got a lot of the legal language.
Yeah, so well, some of that was me. My supervisor, the regional program manager for Region 6, and then our enforcement captain for Region 6 was involved in it. And there was various people in Olympia that kind of chimed in on things.
And I know the one just like retired, literally. It was his last day, week as we were doing that ordinance. But
his last day is the end of this month.
End of this month? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ran it up the legal chain of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, made sure they reviewed it, and we also have had our attorney review it. Go ahead.
And the reason I ask that is that over the last few weeks, we had a topic that our council took on that unfortunately became pretty controversial and created a lot of dissension in our community. And we've received lots of feedback from our community. And some of that, we've all been reading the emails and listening to public comment, was one of the things we got was why could some community members somehow get a topic that we would talk about? But I hear you clearly saying that one of the reasons we drafted this ordinance was in response to a community member. I also heard that you had community members working on this ordinance, and some of that feedback we got from our community is, how are we getting sample resolutions or suggestions from our community for work that our council is doing? So what I hear is that it is okay for community members to draft ordinances, to suggest resolutions, to do that. And it is okay for our council or our city to take on and draft ordinances in response to maybe just one individual. So it just can't be okay for some and not okay for others.
Any other? Yeah,
I guess
Kurt?
that was more of a speech than a question.
No.
I know. If I'm just a regular citizen with a little kitten, and that little kitten gets out, and I set a trap on my own property by myself, am I supposed to get a permit for that? Otherwise, I'm running afoul of the law.
Yeah, the only reason that we would still require you to get a permit from that is because what if you don't trap a little kitty? You could trap a raccoon, you could trap a cougar. I mean, I doubt it if you're looking for a little kitty, depending on the type of trap you have. But this is where this came in, because this became a legal issue, as exactly as Scott Harris had mentioned. Trying to trap a pet, we accidentally trapped a bear cub. And that's why we need to know, because, you know, I sound like Richard Will saying this, but Mama Bear, I don't know how to say it. When Mama Bear finds out her bear's in a trap, that's now a dangerous environment. Someone going back there hearing, you know, cries could get mauled. So we need to know where you've put that trap for a reason. I mean, obviously, if it's a little kitten trap, it's a $15 process. It's 5 minutes. We're probably not going to do a lot of the oversight, but you have to watch it too, because you just don't know what you're going to catch at the end of the day.
Well, the average citizen isn't going to have the time to put, you know, the money to put a camera on it and all this other stuff. So how does that work?
That's when you most likely do what hundreds of citizens have done in this town, and you contact Vivian, and she does that because that's one of the services that she's just afforded citizens over the years.
You know, God bless Vivian and everything she does, but what happens if she isn't available? What happens if somebody else comes into town and decides to charge money for trapping, unlike Vivian? And turns it into a business.
Yeah, they would need a license for that. Now they'd have to be a licensed wildlife control operator. So that would be a totally different thing.
And you see, this is really complicated.
Yes, Richard.
So the first time, or the first couple of times that this ordinance came around in the past, I was very much against it just for the fact of trapping a cub, a bear cub or a cougar cub, and the safety issue. When I saw this come around again, I did some research, and Mr. Harris, correct me if I'm wrong, has there ever been a case of a brown bear attacking a human in the state of Washington?
You mean black bear?
A black bear. I'm sorry, black bear.
Yes.
Okay.
Under the definition of an attack, is it the Wildlife Human Interaction Manual, or WHAM manual, or attack manual, the WHAM manual, more at acronyms, defines an attack as any interaction. So we've had several cases, and it's actually, I just read it recently. Somebody finally compiled it all, but so an attack is any interaction, any place where there's contact. So your dog corners a bear, they get in a tussle, you jump in there and split it up. That's an attack. So and that's the vast majority of them are just like those. There's really not any injury involved, or thankfully black bears are pretty chill. I'm not too worried about them, but at the same time, they can be very defensive. And I'd say, I believe since the, and like I say, somebody finally just put all this together. I want to say, on record, there's been, I want to say 19 in the history of Washington, with one death was attributed, but there's a lot of data missing. So and most of those have all been defensive reactions from a bear, but we still call it an attack. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It kind of does. I have a follow-on, if I may, Mayor.
Yeah.
And the follow-on is you were involved in releasing the cubs that were trapped. And what I know about a brown bear is they can outrun a human on a horse for a short distance. Bears scare the living out of me. When I was a teenager and did some hunting, fortunately I never did any killing, fortunately for me and my psyche. But with your experience, if that cub, cougar or bear is trapped, and what I read on the internet, which has, you already know how much credibility, but what it said is that if you make a bunch of noise and hoopla, mama's going to run away. In your experience, is that accurate?
If you have any animals, so one, I want to make sure to clarify we're talking black bears, not brown bears, because brown bears you're getting into grizzlies entirely. So our North American black bears, as far as abandoning their cub, if they believe that cub's in distress, it's like any parent or even I mean, I've been attacked by deer, when I'm capturing fawns, but they're very unpredictable. Thankfully, black bears are a little chill. In this case, the sow was pretty chill. I wasn't there. I was actually out of town that weekend. The officers were able to get a houndsman out there to use the dogs to keep her at bay and release the cubs, because that's where I like to say I'm kind of I'm willing to work with everybody, and hey, if I know that there's going to be a potential that, okay, for this week they're going to be setting a trap, I know that I might just want to stay home, or if I have something planned, I can let them know so they can plan around it too. So but getting back to your original attack thing, it's all how you define an attack. I'm not aware of any predatory attacks that have been proven, but defensive attacks are very, very, with any animal. We have people that get injured by deer every year because they feel, even in this city, we are always hearing about somebody's dog. It's just an animal's response, and it can even be a human. We've all been there where something we care about, we feel is threatened, and we can be a little irrational.
So one final follow-on is, in my research, to my knowledge, in 25 years, the only case of a cougar or bear being trapped in Ocean Shores was that cub that we're talking about. And so when I evaluate the risk of injury to the public, it seems pretty minor, but any risk to a child or an adult for that matter is a big risk. But on the other hand, your loved pet, and people pay thousands of dollars for the health care, they're emotionally attached to that. And to be able to recover that pet, I understand its importance. And I'm trying as a council member to decide on this ordinance to weigh the risk of injury against the likelihood of injury, if that makes sense. And I'm relying on your expertise to help shape my attitude, my thinking.
When it comes to, people that know me or talk to me regarding like bears or other animals, I'm generally not that concerned about bears, or cougars. I mean, raccoons are kind of my number one public enemy or public safety concern. But when I seen, I remember getting the text on that those bear cubs in there, and I was up in the Olympics. I could receive a text, but I couldn't send out. That was probably one of the most concerned I've been in many years from a public safety standpoint, because that could have went south really quick. It could have been somebody who were walking their dog that had their dog off leash. Maybe they're not supposed to. I don't know. The dog goes in there to check out. Oh, look, cubs. It's not really a threat, but mom thinks they're a threat. So now you have the dog. There's definitely some. That was probably one of the few times in my career that I've been really had a big public safety concern. And I'm really happy, because the officers in that scenario could have been justified in euthanizing that sow on site, just to resolve that situation. And I don't think anybody would have questioned it, but they definitely thought out of the box. And thankfully, the houndsman was available. And we actually have to pay that houndsman to come out. So it's not much money. It's no big, not big deal, but I thought they really thought out of the box. I'm just trying to avoid it. There's a lot of non-target species that are caught. We just don't. Bears, I'm not aware of other situations. Now there again, I've seen where bobcats get caught from a non-target. I've seen where cougars get caught. some of that happens, but it's an entirely different situation. It's not in Ocean Shores where you've got a higher population. It's usually out in the country where, you know, I went to one scenario where a cougar got caught. This is, I mean, many years ago. It was way out in logging country. You know, it was just a non-targets. Was there a public safety concern? No, you know, because of just where location was. So, you know, I understand people, you know, I'm not, I mean, it is strange to me. I'm around a lot of different animal control and animal rescue. And, you know, it just, I think you always got to be careful when you're using traps.
All right, thank you. Denise?
I wanted to say I'm glad that we're looking at the and trying to fix the gray area for domestic animals, given that I have GPS trackers on mine. But I do have a question, and it's on page 5 or 31 of our agenda. And here it says that when you're looking at the conditions of permit, number 1 says that it is for an insured non-government domestic animal rescue organization may request the permit. Does that mean it is limited to insured non-government domestic rescue organizations?
The way it's written now would be yes, but if that's something council wanted to amend.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I'm just trying to clarify it. I have worked with 2 different rescues, and they did use traps, not often, but on occasion, because even rescues will try other things before traps.
Yeah, and I think this is where there's the issue that Councilmember Dooley brought up, that we might look at it. I mean, it's one thing if you're putting a trap on your own property to try to catch your own pet. It's another thing if you're putting them in different places in the city. So we could make an amendment to that and bring it back and say that, you know, if you're placing it on your own property, you could apply for a permit. But obviously, we kind of want people who are good at this and have done this in the past, rather than, you know, the amateur hour.
Yeah, I agree, because even in an individual doing it, any animal that is getting trapped, even if it could be your own animal, can be dangerous.
Yep.
Lisa Griebel?
Less speech making this time. But I would also, after I ask my question, like to hear from Tom because of his experience as a code enforcement officer and what he thinks about the ordinance. But before we hear from Tom, just from a public safety thing, how long does it take to respond? When I hear that you're going to respond if they've caught something they shouldn't have caught, how long does that normally take?
Hopefully just a few hours. Generally, if I know that there's, you know, let's say the code enforcement officer says, hey, we're going to have this trap set out. You know, I'm not going to make, you know, it's no different than when I put a trap out, that I'm pretty much got to stay in the area. So generally speaking, if I get the call and I'm able to leave right away, I can be here in an hour and a half.
And the reason I ask that is I realize that the property owner has to give permission for that trap to be set, but bears I don't think they understand property lines, so that I don't know if the mother bear is going to be on my property, even though I didn't give permission. And so then if I'm injured or my pets are injured because the trap that was set in the neighbor's yard, who's responsible for my injury or my pet's injury?
So that would be kind of going over the domestic. So I don't know if I have the right, you know, I don't know if I can answer that if somebody's trying to.
The one condition, and this is what Denise had just said, it has to be an insured non-government entity. So if there is an injury that requires fiscal liability, it would fall under the limitations of that insurance.
I didn't know. Hang on, Allison. Was Tom going to speak?
You want something? Okay. All righty. I've been animal control for City of Hoke Rim for over 10 years, and I've trapped dogs, quite a few times. The one thing about trapping an animal, no matter what type of animal it is, once you trap that animal, it goes into, I want out. It will fight, it will bark, it will scratch. I had a raccoon. My first trap was a raccoon because it had gone under a vacant house. Somebody was walking their dog. The dog went underneath the house, got attacked by the raccoon. I put a trap out at night. The next morning I come back, that raccoon got itself out of that trap. So they are dangerous when they're in that trap. Even your own dog, if it's scared, it's going to act like it's feral. So they have to be careful. They have. I agree with the permits. The thing is, the bear cubs. We know what happened to the mom later.
Mm-hmm.
She left the cubs, went north, and got farmed. Basically, got shot on property, right? But she left. So traps have a lot more than just trying to recover your own dog. You might get that other animal in there, and that's the ones you have to watch out. I don't go live trapping in my city for raccoons or anything else. I will try to find an animal, but I don't like using traps on them because it will traumatize them. So that's my point. I think we're going the right direction. Vivian, I've worked with before. She knows what she's doing. She does try to take the best care of the animal, and we need to do something here. So I think this is a good start, having the city involved in it, at least with permits and stuff, and law enforcement backing at least the knowledge that it traps out. But that's my issue, is you're going to traumatize that animal no matter what you do.
All right, Allison.
So I need some clarification, because earlier I said if my dog gets loose and I want to get traps, you said I can get a permit and I can do that. However, under conditions of permits, it said subject to limitations and conditions that only an animal rescue can do it. So I really can't go and try and trap my own dog.
No, you can't. And I misplaced that. We discussed this and went around on it, and I'd forgotten that we had limited disclosure to that.
So my question is, what animal rescue organizations are we using or can be used in Ocean Shores?
I would assume anyone that has a 501c3 that designates themselves as a rescue organization, that's what it would have to entail legally. You would have to have a nonprofit, you would have to be insured, and it would have to, on the permit, it would have to, you applied for the 501c3, allow you to do that.
So what ones do you know of that we have right now?
I don't know. Vivian, do you want to speak to that?
I mean, is PAWS considered that? I know Vivian's rescue is.
I'm not going to speak for Vivian, so I'm going to let her speak for herself.
I'm just curious if it can only be done by those. Is there more than one? Who's available to be able to do it?
Good afternoon, City Council members of the community. I'm Vivian. I'm the trapper. I've been trapping domestic dogs and cats for upwards of 17 years, all over Grace Harbor County. I've left the state to trap animals successfully. My traps are store-bought. They're good quality. I have cat-sized traps, and I have big dog-sized traps. And I have been using wireless cameras on every single trap I set for years. I have 3 of them, so technically I could have 3 traps set around. And anytime there is a motion detection, I get a message to my phone, and I can see what's going on. If it's just the wind that tripped it, or if there's an animal, and I can keep a close eye on that. I am more than happy to set a trap for your lost dog or cat. It's not an immediate thing. I obviously have to meet with the person who's lost their animal, and some dogs are really hard to trap because they don't stay in the area. And there's no sense setting a trap if you don't have sightings. If the dog or the cat is regularly seen, your chances of catching that animal is greater. So trapping is not always going to happen when you have a lost dog or cat. Typically, when I set a trap for a dog or a cat, I don't leave the area. I'm within typically 10 minutes. You have to get out of the area, especially if you're talking about a dog. You don't want that dog to see you and know that something's up, so you go hide. I have...
Vivian, can I just,
Oh.
Salty Dog Animal Rescue is a licensed and insured 501c3, correct?
Yes, it is. In fact, when this came up, and I've met with Scott and Frank and a few others a few times about this, and I reached out to Dirty Insurance, told them what's going on, that I'm going to have to be insured to continue to trap dogs and cats here. He's looking into it. If he needs to put another rider on it or something, he'll do that. So technically, I'll be insured to be able to trap your dogs and cats. The tale about the bear cubs has come up a lot tonight. In all my years of trapping, I've never intentionally caught a fur-bearing animal. That's never been something that I do. I don't intentionally trap raccoons or cougars, bear cubs. I was watching this happen, and it happened so fast. Mom came through, 3 bear cubs came after her. 2 bear cubs went in the trap. 3rd bear cub lifted up, pulled the door down. And I took a deep breath, and I thought, oh my God, do I go out there and try to release these cubs and potentially end up in the hospital? That is not what I did. I immediately called WildCom and let them know exactly what happened. So within 10 minutes of this happening, I was on the phone to Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they were getting their people together. The reason this particular trap was set was because of Gracie, that little basset hound that went missing and was just a holy terror to catch. She would I just couldn't get her to go in a trap. Finally found the right trap. It's called a Missy trap, and it's larger, and I had cameras on her. She started going in, finally captured her. So she's been off the street for 2 years now. But yes, one of the important things about this new ordinance, and I'm all for it, because if I accidentally trap a fur-bearing animal again, I do what I'm supposed to do, what all of us are supposed to do, I will not be charged with any crimes. And I'm sure some of you know that I went through a year and $9,000 with 2 misdemeanor crimes on my back. They were finally dismissed when we told the prosecutor that we wanted to go to trial. Anyway, and I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, I run Grays Harbor Spay Neuter Project. Once a month, I trap feral cats around the county. I run Operation Dog Rescue, which is lost, stray, at-large dogs. And since last April, the Salty Dog Animal Rescue took over the city kennel. So any stray at-large dogs will be brought there. So I'm willing to take any questions.
No, and the citations that you were issued, that's the whole reason we're having this conversation right
Exactly.
now. How do we save domestic animals and domestic pets legally? And that's what this whole ordinance is about.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Richard?
So really, this is my final question, comment. and it's mostly for Scott Harris in the police department. You have the experience and knowledge to assess the threat to the community that I don't have. So I'm asking both of your advice. I think I already know Vivian's advice because she's said she's been doing this for 17 years. So it's clear to me that trapping lost pets is a benefit to the community. Unquestionably, that, and I'm grateful for the work that Vivian has done, but I want it to be legal, and I want to reduce the threat to the community from that trapped cub or cougar or cat or whatever, big cat. So please, both the police and Mr. Harris, chime in. What's your realistic assessment of the risk to a citizen or child if we enact this ordinance? And is there any alternative to trapping to recover that runaway pet?
So I'm kind of struggling with that a little bit, but so hopefully, so the risk, from the risk from wildlife, probably pretty low unless you get that scenario. Again, but there is a risk there. But something that sometimes that comes to my mind, because I tend to look at statistics, that drives a lot of how I operate. You actually in some ways have a bigger safety risk with dogs running loose. That people don't realize that there are, I believe, over 200 deaths a year from domestic dogs. So you have a dog running scared or whatnot. So being able to have a mechanism in place to be able to trap those dogs, because if they're terrified, you get a dog that's afraid, like Tom was talking about earlier. It may be the sweetest dog in the world, but if it's afraid, it's afraid. And so I think in some cases being able to trap that dog and get it into a safe environment. So I don't know if that answers your question, but to me, being able to, having both these systems in place, somebody able to, some cities it's the city staff trapping, others they've got volunteers, they're working together. I think you're improving the safety by having this.
You're not talking into your mic, but Lisa's next.
That's because I
actually.
pulled my mic back.
Yeah.
But I just had one question, and I know we're going back and forth so much, and most of my questions were answered, but the one that I would like clarified for sure before I feel comfortable approving this is having the insurance amount established. Most ordinances, especially when you're dealing with insurance, and Lisa brought up Councilmember Griebel, brought up a good point, and if something gets hurt, it would be really nice to have that insurance, and especially for the nonprofit, so they know what that insurance amount should be. We have to do it for all of the events that we hold, liability insurance, and I think once you have that amount established, I feel a little bit more comfortable, just from a liability standpoint.
Yeah, and I think the WCIA generally recommends the $2 million liability amount. That's probably what we would look at. That's generally what our insurance authority wants. So, if you want that, if you want to make a motion to add that we will use WCIA standards for events, that's fine with me.
So may I have the police weigh in on my question?
There we go. I'm going to echo Scott and Tom's comments both. Obviously, the risk of having an animal running wild, a dog, and having dog attacks is obviously something that we don't want to have come onto our city. So I think that they both pretty much stole my thunder. I agree with both of their assessments.
Right, any other comments? We're going to have council action or?
So I would like to make a motion to amend this ordinance to stipulate a $2 million insurance. And I would be happy knowing that that motion is going to be included, or that stipulation is included, then I'd be happy on maybe taking action this evening. But that's my motion, to amend this to have a $2 million insurance on this.
We have a second?
I will second for the discussion.
All right, so we got a second. All in favor to amend
I
it
have-
for 2 million?
I have
Oh, you
a
got a
question.
question? Go ahead.
Yeah, my question was, are we looking at $2 million or are we looking at WCIA standards?
Those are the WCIA standards. That's what they recommend. So 2 million. 2 million is the number they generally want us to have as the city for liability purposes. For those listening at home that have no idea what the WCIA is, that's the Washington City's Insurance Authority, and that's who insures the city. That's who we run all of our insurance by. So they tell us what they want for those type of parameters, and then we fulfill that.
So we got a motion to amend for $2 million for insurance and a second. All in favor of that? All right, we need a roll call.
Councilmember Sires.
No, we got an amendment first, then we go to the,
Yes.
Councilmember Sires is a yes. Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Taylor is a yes. Councilmember Griebel.
No.
Councilmember Griebel is a no. Councilmember Klein.
No.
Councilmember Klein is a no. Councilmember Scott.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott is a yes. Councilmember Wills.
Yes.
Councilmember Wills is a yes. Councilmember Dooley.
Yes.
Councilmember Dooley is a yes. That's 5 yeses, 2 noes. Motion passed.
all right. Do we have a motion for council action on this with the amended portion of this ordinance?
I'll make the motion, but I've got to get scrolled to the right. I make a motion to approve an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, repealing and replacing Chapter 820 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, OSMC, entitled Hunting and Trapping, with a new chapter entitled Trapping, updated and clarifying regulations providing for humane animal management practices, protecting public safety, wildlife, and animal welfare, and providing for severability and establishing an effective date. What? As amended.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor? We'll do a roll call.
Councilmember Sires.
Yes.
Councilmember Sires is a yes. Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor is a yes. Councilmember Griebel.
No.
Councilmember Griebel is a no. Councilmember Klein.
No.
Councilmember Klein is a no. Councilmember Scott.
No.
Councilmember Scott is a no. Councilmember Wills.
Yes.
Councilmember Wills is a yes. Councilmember Dooley.
No.
Councilmember Dooley is a no. Motion fails 3-4.
All right, well, we'll stay with our old ordinance, I guess, on that. All right, so next up, we got a request for the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to approve an agreement with the Pro-West GIS for migration and upgrade to the city's asset management software, and that'll be presented by our Public Works Director, Ricardo Victoriano.
Good evening, Council. So this agreement comes to us from a little bit of collaboration between Becky and myself, along with our wastewater collections crew chief, Nick Tingle. We have an existing asset management software that is supported by Gray and Osborne. It's an existing proprietary software, and this is essentially a migration of that asset management software from what Gray and Osborne can no longer support to something that what Pro-West and Associates is going to do is they're going to take that conglomerate of, it's about, I think, 2 or 3 softwares to run our current system as it sits, and put it onto, migrate it to an ArcGIS software suite that we'll be able to maintain in-house. And that's as
All right. Looks like we need new batteries. Oh.
I forgot where I was. Well, so we're moving to this new software that we'll be able to use in-house. The software will be used for the wastewater collections department starting out, and we'll slowly add on the other departments, water and stormwater, as we can collect that data. Right now, we have all the data we need to migrate the wastewater collections infrastructure, and so right now we use this software for inspection, historical data, going back and looking at inspections that are tied to properties. Work orders, so we generate work orders for maintenance members in the field to fix something that's broken or worn out. Planned maintenance. We have indicators on each of these objects that, you know, if it's been a year since it's been maintained or greased or touched or anything like that, it turns red on the map, and we make sure to go take care of it. So there's, you know, that kind of automated maintenance there. We can schedule maintenance. So if there's a widget, we'll say, you know, that this needs to be looked at again in a week. After we make a change, we might be trying something new at that area and see if it works. We also use this for systematic replacement of infrastructure right now for the wastewater collection system. And with the new software, we'll be able to budget for planning any capital replacements as they're needed in our wastewater collection system.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Any public comment? Not seeing any. Council? Go ahead, Rich. Or yeah, you guys got to share mics.
We're all sharing. My only question is, can you say in plain English how this benefits the citizens?
So this is a big part of how our wastewater collection system runs so flawlessly. Pretty much everything is automated as far as scheduling the maintenance and making sure that, you know, there's no really the human error is gone. There's nothing gets forgotten about because it starts blinking red and it brings your attention to it. So the biggest benefit from the homeowners in Ocean Shores would be less sewer backups, I guess. It's a big part of it is that when we do have an issue, we are able to handle it a lot faster than, you know, if we have an issue at 2 a.m, we have measurements for each of our GPS coordinates and measurements for each of our sewer pits or valves or anything like that. So they're a lot easier to find in times of emergency. So.
All right. Did you have a question, Richard?
More of a comment. Last year, I made a trip to Eastern Washington for an AWC conference and was exposed and had a preview of this software. I came back very excited and recommended it, but at the time, we didn't have you, a public works director, and I am ecstatic that you are adopting this software. I've seen it. It is north of fantastic, and I absolutely can vouch for my opinion of how well I think that it will help you do your job. So yes, I think this is a good move. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Scott.
I just wanted to say, because we learned at Public Works that also the benefit is we will control the software that the third party will not be. So if something happened, sometimes when you have internet service, if you have a third party, they are owners of your information and your software, and this time we'll be in control of it. So that was one of the things that we learned that I thought was a huge benefit.
Yeah, and so actually when Gray and Osborne actually managed and supported the software, we would get billed for engineering hours anytime we needed to make changes. You know, if we put in a new lateral and a new service to one of the 100 triplexes that are going in, then we got billed, you know, we'll say 2 hours for that work on top of our man hours to catalog all that work. And so now we'll be able to, you know, build up 5 or 6 at a time, put them all in the same hour and a half that it takes, and we'll be able to manage all that in-house. You know, if we have any connectivity issues, we can fix it pretty quick. If we have any database issues, we have that stuff here on our city servers, and we'll be able to access that and troubleshoot anything that happens. So.
Denise?
Yeah, I think it's great taking control of the system, but I do have questions about future maintenance or future software enhancements. Will those be purchased separately? Is there a place to purchase them through?
So-
I mean, I know that eventually software needs some kind of maintenance and enhancements.
Yeah, so we have an annual license fee that is what we'll have going forward, and that'll depend on what we have built out in the software. So right now, everything's coming out of the sewer capital improvement or capital replacement fund. I can't remember exactly what's on the agenda bill. But once other departments start to have or integrate their data into this software, their licenses will come out of their respective budgets and everything like that. I don't know exactly what the annual cost for that is, but I can get that answer for you.
Any questions down at this end of the table? No? All right. Go ahead, Lisa.
I'd like to make a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to approve an agreement with Pro-West GIS for migration and upgrade of the city's asset management software.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Ricky. All right, we've got a request for the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to award the 2026 Aquatic Weed Management to Aquatechnix, and that is presented by our Project Manager, Becky Leach.
Good evening, Council. So this is the third year in a row that I'm presenting for the aquatic weed management in the lakes and canals, and it's not June or July. So we're hitting it early this year. We are still under contract with Aquatechnix. From last year's work, we have $15,000 left from that budget. And in 2026, Aquatechnix has sent a proposal to start treating in April. And they are going to treat with a chemical, they're pellets, they're called Sonar 1. And they'll do 3 to 4 week interval treatments. And we should see results in 6 to 10 weeks. When they do this treatment, it is going to focus on the curly leaf pondweed. And then when the fish window opens up on July 15th, they'll also be coming back to target the parrot's feather, which is also rampant in our canals. And they'll be using Pro-Cell Core for that. And that one has to wait until July 15th because of the fish window. So my request, and then I'm going to give a little bit more information about Aquatechnix and the cyanobacteria, but my request is for this year's treatment to be approved for $91,200. And we do have $282,492 left in this biennium budget for the aquatic weed management. And I'll read that request again when I get to the end. Aquatechnix is using this new software. It's new to us anyway, and it's called AIM. And AIM stands for All-In Monitoring. And what All-In Monitoring will do is it uses satellite technology, image data that's collected from the Planet Lab satellite, and uses algorithms that will process the image data of the chlorophyll and AI systems. The AI technology will build a database of conditions for every 10-acre sampling site from the previous 5 years, and then it will also take the conditions going forward, and that's for the cyanobacteria toxic algae blooms. I was reading some more material. Those algae blooms can move 10 miles in a day. They can move a long distance, and I know that we see, the blue-green algae in different places, so we'll be working with the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board and getting more information out there about how the public can do stick tests and things like that. But that AIM monitoring is really exciting because it's going to show us the trends for the cyanobacteria. Separate project, but same contractor will be doing it. And I'm also we're going to work with Terry McNabb from Aquatechnix to treat the parrot's feather as well. So that'll be a little bit additional work that we'll be doing. Not parrot's feather. Pennywort, the one that everybody hates that's growing around everybody's docks. So he's going to get me more information on that and what he can do to treat it. The pennywort isn't a noxious weed, so attacking it after these first that are the invasive toxic weeds is the way to go, and then he'll come back during the fish window to treat the pennywort. So that's the most hated weed, I think, in Ocean Shores other than Scotch broom.
All right, thanks. Is there any public comment?
I have watched over the last 2 years the water in front of my house get worse and worse and worse. There have been 2 treatments that failed miserably to even address the problem. What makes us think? What about these pellets is going to improve the system? And if the pellets are designed to sink to the bottom where we already have feet of muck, is that where the residue from the plants is going to go? Are we just adding to that? And I know you're looking at me like, shut up, don't ask that question.
No, I'm not.
And I understand that. But it seems to me that some of those questions need to be asked. I'm delighted to see an overall management plan, but I haven't seen any results. And I realize that we're just starting on it. And before we scatter pellets throughout our waterways, although I don't think my area is on the schedule, I am absolutely delighted to see it moved earlier in the year. That needs to happen. But does somebody know enough about this product to know that it's not going to once again add to our problem instead of solve it? And you can't answer me, and I know that. But I hope that somebody gets that answer, and that between now and the time they start applying it, we can have some conversations about it. And I hope that our Fresh Waterways is having some of those conversations now. I have watched all of these solutions over the years, and 80% of them have turned into problems. So I just am very concerned that we're ahead of the game on this. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? All right, seeing none, council. Oh. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Hello, council again. James Pace, like I said earlier, I'm the secretary of the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board, and we actually have our meetings once a month, maybe going into twice a month, and we can have discussions with the public there, and they can see the results of the information that we've been given through Aquatechnix and the different scientific evidence that we have. Now, this is really cool what Becky's talking about, because they're using satellite imaging and they're looking at the lake, and you can literally see in the pictures that we've been given the improvement to the waterways over the time that it's taken to, with these treatments. Now, in the past, the city, as far as my understanding is, has spent minimal amount of money to fund some of these projects, and with minimal amount, we're going to get minimal results. This is something that's happened over time. The city's been built over peat bogs and all sorts of different things. There's a lot of information that goes into this. This company that we're currently working with, Aquatechnix, has provided us a lot of information and things that do not harm the wildlife, do not harm the fish. That's why we can do it outside of the fish window. So what Becky's requesting is very reasonable to get us started, and so that we can start to move into some of these programs and start to see some results, to see if they work. If we don't see results, then of course we can pivot and change. But if we don't get something going, we're never going to see any results. So thank you for your time.
All right, council. Richard?
So again, in my role on the Fresh Waterways Corporation, not the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board, I did a lot of research on our aquatic weed problem, and I can answer some of the questions that I've heard. And yes, when we use these herbicides, it will kill the weeds, they will settle to the bottom, and they will add to the biomass at the bottom. And that's a separate problem that Herrera has already suggested a solution for, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. So yes, there will be some addition to the biomass. However, I went out on my kayak sometime last year and I probed the bottom in Fishhook, which is so shallow that if you fall overboard, stand up, because you'll only be less than waist deep. And my unscientific probe of the bottom with my canoe, with my kayak paddle, is the muck is about this thick. And Fishhook is arguably the most dense because of all of the overhanging branches and all of the leaves that fall in. So if there's only this much in Fishhook, then the only other place that's likely similar is the entrance to the Bass Canal. That's also heavily overbrushed. So to cut to the chase, yes, I think this is a good thing. And the suggestion Herrera talked about was aluminum sulfate. And if I remember, Becky, you can probably remember better than me, but I think Herrera said to treat our waterway system would be about $3.5 million. Expensive, but it will encapsulate those nitrates, and that will dramatically help clear up the water, and it won't remove the muck. Removing the muck will be very, very expensive, probably tens of millions, because it involves an excavator on a barge and scooping it up and taking it to shore and on and on and on. So I look forward to finding the money for the Herrera nitrate alum solution, but this, yet part of why this is better is because we're doing it in time to actually address the problem before the problem overwhelms us.
That's right. And we have currently an application in with Department of Ecology for $50,000 specifically to treat the cyanobacteria. It's a drop in the bucket for what we need to do with the cyanobacteria toxic algae, but that grant is specifically for the toxic algae treatment. So it would be good for us, and it'll come to council is if we get the grant, and if not, it'll come as a different funding request, but that'll come to council with, I think we're going to look to see if we could get that amount of alum in the applicator, to do that. Aquatechnix also is a licensed applicator for the alum treatment for the cyanobacteria. And Herrera is going to come to our next Fresh Waterways Board meeting, and I asked him specifically to talk about solar bees, which is an aeration system. And one of the questions I'm going to ask them is, will that help with the muck on the bottom? Because I'm not 100% certain if it will, but that's a question. So the public is welcome to come to the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board meeting. That is an open meeting to the public. It's great. We have a wonderful board. They're sitting right here. And we have split them. They're all the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board members. We have 7, but we've split into 2 ad hoc committees because there's so much work that needs to get done. Half are working on the cyanobacteria plan, and the other half are working on the aquatic management weed plans.
All right, any other questions from council? Comments? Any council action? Yes, Allison.
I would like to make a motion to go ahead and approve a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores to award the 2026 Aquatic Weed Management to Aquatechnix.
All right, Kurt, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will start public comment. All right, we will reconvene the meeting, and next we have public comment. All right, so public Communication to council is intended for communication to the city council regarding general council business or policy not on tonight's agenda. Address comments or questions to the city council body, not to an individual council member, staff, or audience member. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer time, and council cannot engage in conversation with the public. Personal attacks, abusive language, slanderous remarks, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. No person may use the public comment for the purpose of campaign or advertisement. The time will begin once the citizen has started their public comment. At 2 minutes, you will see a green light, followed by a yellow light indicating 30 seconds remain in the public comment period. The red light will notify the reader that the public comment time has ended. Order of the public comments will be first individuals attending in person, then individuals attending remotely. General public comments, whether in person or remotely, will continue in the usual position on the agenda. If an agenda item has been removed, public comment regarding that item will be addressed following the conclusion of a general public comments, and we don't have that today. And I will just say one thing. I hope everybody can act like adults today and not like the last meeting that I ran. And so I'm looking forward to everybody's politeness and listen to who's speaking or not listen to them, whichever you choose to do. But how about we keep our mouths shut and have the courtesy to allow people to speak? Thank you.
All right, Mayor, Council, citizens, we have 16 in-person public comments and 2 that are online. And the first, and they tried to make it as easy as possible, but I'm still going to screw it up. I believe it's Carew, yesterday's meeting.
I am Carew of Ocean Shores. After all I've witnessed yesterday, I noticed that people here all want human safety, but unfortunately have polarizing ideas on how to achieve that. I cannot speak on behalf of all youth, of all brown people, or of all Americans. I wish only to address both council and the citizens here with my most personal concerns, if you'll allow. The amount of fear and uncertainty I heard from folks harboring hostility towards future potential neighbors, visitors, and tourists was frankly disturbing to me personally. I may have limited knowledge of how Ocean Shores operates, but I understand human beings, and the hysteria stemming from social media and news channels has been detrimental to the mental health of our retirees, in my opinion. As residents continue to parrot the words of strangers who don't even live here, I'm left pondering where our humanity went. Remember, many of our own ancestors were immigrants once, themselves. Thus, I strongly encourage everyone to tap into your compassion, to treat those you see and meet with basic respect and dignity that you'd want for yourself. Invoke the golden rule, if you will. With all that said, I love you, all of you, and thank you for your time.
Nancy Milliman, public comment modifications.
Good evening, everyone. Public comment at city council meetings is one of the most important ways residents can participate in local government. To keep that process fair, productive, and respectful of everyone's time, comments should focus specifically on city business and issues within the council's authority. Yes, it is legal to restrict public comments at council meetings to only local council issues. Keeping the public comment tied to city business does not limit free speech. It ensures the time is used in a way that benefits the entire community. Clear guidelines help meetings remain focused, efficient, and constructive, ultimately strengthening civic engagement and local decision-making. Public comment periods are typically considered limited public forums by definition under the First Amendment. In such forums, governments may impose reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, including limiting speech to topics within the governing body's jurisdiction. Courts have upheld restrictions that require speakers to stay on topic, such as limiting comments to the agenda items or issues under the City Council's authority. For example, a speaker cannot be silenced for criticizing a city policy, but they may be asked to stop discussing unrelated matters, like a national political event or a private family matter. It is known that city councils are responsible for matters such as local budgets, public safety, infrastructure, zoning, parks, and municipal services. When comments stay centered on these topics, council members can respond meaningfully, ask follow-up questions, and consider action. Straying into unrelated national politics, personal grievances, or issues outside the city's jurisdiction can dilute the effectiveness of the meeting and limit opportunities for others who do want to address our local concerns. Thank you.
Deanna Wentland, sanctuary status.
Hello, my name is Diana Winlet. I'm a resident of Ocean Shores for the last 4 years. I have a few things to say about the possible sanctuary city status. This first part is from the last few days from the Joint Public Forum examining DHS use of violence in ICE enforcement in DC. This is from our representative, Emily Randall, speaking to the forum. Tear gassing people in the street, tear gassing and pepper spraying protesters, none of this is an accident, and it's not happening in a vacuum. The Trump administration is recruiting unqualified individuals and giving less training to those who are enthusiastic about joining fascist police force and have proposed giving them bonuses based on how many people they can round up each day. They are pouring $100 million into wartime recruitment strategy. Who exactly are we at war with? The 5-year-olds being kidnapped from their parents? The folks on their way to the doctors? Individuals expressing their First Amendment rights and free speech and right to protest? Those are her words, not mine. ICE and CBP are brutal, unqualified, masked bullies. We have never allowed our country to have masked agents police us. They are now more unqualified than ever, as they have lowered standards for entry and lowered standards for taking tests about constitutional rights and their rules. More innocent people are going to get killed and hurt as their brutality tactics continue. Last night, I heard a lot of good Christians say no to a sanctuary city. I heard how these Christians think illegals rape, kill, cause damage everywhere, and our town will be overrun with crime, and just like the big cities have. As if white people don't do these things? It's simply not true, and it goes against Jesus' teachings. Love thy neighbor, help the stranger. In fact, those are his most important messages. I've heard people talk about the laws, saying they are illegal. Well, slavery was legal once. So was segregation, as well as the horrible things we did to Native Americans in our past, as well as the internment camps we set Japanese folks during World War II. These were all legal under the laws of those times, and we have to live with those stains on our history. ICE goes after everyone who has brown skin. They are looking for the color of the skin to hit their quotas. They don't care if the people are legal citizens or not. Because they are masked, they don't have to be nice hiding behind the fabric. They have killed and hurt American citizens as well as migrants that they are rounding up. Over 75% of the migrants they have rounded up so far were here legally.
That's time.
Okay.
Susan Canary, yesterday's meeting.
Thank you, Susan Canary. Last night felt less like a council study session and more like a scene from Alice in Wonderland, with cries of "off with their heads" echoing in this chamber. The phrase "sanctuary city" ignited fear. Speaker after speaker warned that undocumented immigrants would flood into Ocean Shores, that we will be overrun, that ICE alone stands between us and chaos. But we are not debating fiction. Washington is a sanctuary state. That is the law. Our police department is required to follow it. The question before you is not whether to create something extreme. It is whether to affirm what already exists and reassure residents that local policy aligns with state law. That reassurance matters. Policy 413, Section 7, references officer training. Training should mean more than reading a manual and asking questions if they arise. It should mean structured, documented instruction so officers clearly understand both their authority and their limits under state law. Clarity protects the community. It also protects the officers. As the night went on, the volume rose and the rhetoric intensified, with warnings of murders, rapes, and robberies committed by undocumented criminals. Meanwhile, those who spoke calmly were asking for clarity, transparency, reassurance, and community trust. That is not radical. It is responsible citizenship. A council member's request for discussion was characterized as an attack on the police department. It was not. Oversight is not hostility. Asking questions about policy is part of this council's duty. How did we get here? The fear and accusations did not appear out of nowhere. Weeks ago, residents invited the police chief to a public meeting to explain these policies and ease concerns. 50 people showed up seeking understanding. 5 minutes before the meeting began, we were told she would not attend. That missed opportunity helped create what we witnessed last night. Your choice is simple. We can react like the Queen of Hearts, treating questions as threats and answering fear with more fear, or you can lead. Affirm the law, affirm that our city will follow it, replace drama with steadiness, and replace fear with trust. Thank you.
Steve Bova, Ocean Shores Sanctuary City.
Steve Bova, 30-year resident, retired iron worker. I saw this on a trip to, I live on Tolick Street, a trip to Texas last year. And when we went into Idaho, there was a big sign there. It said, hire undocumented workers is punishable by heavy fines and possible jail time for second and third violations. Don't kid yourself. Undocumented workers lower standard wages in the area. They also promote tax dodging. Have any of you had someone use your Social Security and the IRS says you owe more taxes? You got to dang near get a lawyer to straighten it out. So my proposal, how to stop illegal immigration, strengthen E-Verify and enforce penalties. Hiring unauthorized immigrants is a federal crime in the United States, including Idaho and Washington, and can result in both fines and imprisonment. The specific penalties depend on the severity and frequency of the offense, and jail time is a potential consequence for employers who engage in a pattern of practice of violations or who hire a large number of unauthorized workers knowingly. Federal penalties for employers under federal law, specifically the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. It is illegal to knowingly hire illegals. So I would like to see a study session on declaring Ocean Shores a E-Verify city. Don't laugh because I Googled E-Verify Washington State and I was amazed to learn Puyallup, Woodland, Pierce County, and Hoquiam are all E-Verify cities. Put a few CEOs in jail and tell them to hire green cards, legal immigrants. Quit hiring illegal ones. Now, before I leave, I got something else to say that everyone should agree on. When leaving the house, I heard we're going to have extreme fire danger this year. As we're leaving, I look up and I see 3-phase 440 wires going to a pump station near me. And I got trees this big around all over it. Shouldn't it be a priority to bury these high tension lines before a tree blows over in the extreme fire danger time and bury these underground? That should be a priority, and everyone should agree on that. Thank you.
Lillian Broadbent, Communication.
I spoke a few weeks ago on the importance of our council taking a leadership role, having a retreat, which I understand may happen, and setting priorities that the council sees as the most important things in our city. I want to add to that right now because I've seen a lot of kerfuffle. I would like to see one of those priorities to go back to publishing future agenda items and having the council as a whole vote to put something on that list, and then having the agenda setting committee have that list. They're not going to work them all off. But the reason it was switched over at the time that it was that council members did not feel that they were adequately represented by the agenda setting committee. And by going back to having those future agenda items, you have to get a majority of the council to vote to get them on the list. But you now have a visible list of council priorities and concerns for the public. And on to, I've had a long habit. I used to have to sit in a lot of long meetings, and I tend to play cartoons up on the ceiling when I get a little tired of the meeting. And I realized that all of yesterday could have been avoided with better communication. As Ms. Connery said, our police chief was asked to come to speak to some city members who had legitimate fears. And feeling unsafe in our city is a legitimate concern that can come to council, and hopefully council will act on it. It did get acted on. At the same time, a single council member decided that the minutes that come out and the documentation that's online wasn't enough and created their own minutes for the city council meeting. And then they worked with a person who has a Facebook page of 27,000. And the next thing you know, this blew up into not how do we keep our people safe, but there's something giant and nefarious going on. And we heard the result of that yesterday. Certainly some of it was heartfelt, some of it was very calculated, and some of it was just plain wrong. Statistics prove us otherwise. And I'm done. Thank you.
Christina Ray, Sanctuary City.
Hello. It's a beautiful day. Thank you. I was unable to attend last night. I was at work. I have heard people mention Alex Preddy's name in this meeting, and the story read, Alex Preddy, nurse killed by ICE. He wasn't working as a nurse anymore. He'd been released from his job. He was an agitator. He did not respect nonviolent protests. He interfered. There were protests about his death, gatherings. And then we have Riley Lankin, who was a nursing student that was killed by an immigrant. There was nothing for her, nothing. A good soul, a good person. I'm a registered nurse, and it just broke my heart, both stories. This is my community. I am grateful for living here, and I appreciated Chief Logan yesterday, the information that she gave us. I support our police department here. I feel safe. I do not support a sanctuary city. I support immigrants coming in legally through the front door, not around. Sometimes those people will take desperate measures to survive. Thank you.
Rick Beveridge, Sanctuary City.
Rick Beveridge, and I'm also going to speak for my brother who is here this evening, unless you want to give him about an extra 10 minutes to come up and speak to himself, but I think we'd like to get done with this at some point this evening. Man, where to start? I went to the meeting last night, and I had every intention of speaking, but I had engagements that I had to go do, and I had to leave, so I couldn't do it, because I heard my name called when I got home at 8:38 last night. I was already home, but so I'll be much briefer than I would have been. First off, there's one truth, there's one law, and there's a whole bunch of different opinions. Everybody's allowed their opinion, but there is only one truth and one law. We need to respect that, in my opinion. I'm for immigration. I'm not for illegal immigration. I'm a descendant of Scottish immigrants to this country that came here to dig coal for this country. Sanctuary City is, for me, is a big no. And as a veteran, and most veterans I know don't consider saluting the flag never mind, I won't say it. Yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. But anyway, for me, it's no. I'll slightly modify my brother's comments so I don't offend anybody. His was, to be a little more precise, was hell no. So that's for us, it's a no and a hell no.
Michael Avolio, Sanctuary City.
Okay, here we go again. I'm not for sanctuary city status. And as I said yesterday, I'm for immigration, but legal immigration. And during the Biden administration, we didn't need to have an open border and let 15 million people in here unchecked. That created a lot of problems in this country. I'm not a bigot, I'm not a racist, and I've been called that by many people in town here, and I don't like it. They don't even know me, and they go online and call me these names. I don't like it. Just because I'm against open borders and people coming across or trying to get across, I want them to obey our laws. Is there something wrong with a country having laws? I don't think so. We need laws to govern our civility and who we are as a country. Without laws, we're not a country. My wife immigrated here, as I told you last night. I'm not against immigration. I just want legal immigration, and I want the laws to be obeyed. We have a law here in Washington State. It's already a sanctuary state, and it stipulates everything that needs to be understood. Everything they want in a sanctuary state is in the laws that Washington has passed. That's all we need. This is a nothing burger here. I don't even know why we're talking about it. We got a group in town here that wants to protest everything. They started protesting about democracy. Then they started protesting about no kings. Then they started protesting that they're calling us all Nazis. I don't like being called a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. Because I'm a conservative doesn't mean I'm a Nazi. I don't like that. But I got to sit there at the entrance of town and see flags hung upside down and calling people Nazis and Hitler. I don't like that. And Ocean Shores is better than that. I grew up my whole life in Oregon City, Portland Metro. And when I retired, I moved up here because I had family here. No way in hell did I think I was going to put up with this type of stuff moving here to Ocean Shores. When I first moved here, it was a great community. I loved it. I have a lot of friends here now. And I don't want to leave it, but I'm looking at leaving now because I'm fed up with these people causing all these problems in our community. And it needs to end. I don't know if you guys can do something for that, but it needs to be addressed because they're out of control.
Sylvia Fain, Sanctuary City.
Hi, Sylvia Fain. I'm going to read a few things. U.S. Department of Affairs in our country states that illegals, and this was like for the last 10 years, have a 30 to 50% lower crime rate than U.S. citizens. Less likely to be incarcerated or commit crimes. For illegals, as you want to call them, 613 are per 100,000. For U.S. citizens, it's not 613 per 100,000. It's 1,224 per 100,000 people that are incarcerated. Homicide conviction, undocumented, 1.9 per 100,000. U.S. citizens, 4.8 per 100,000. I mean, you know, we could go over all the names of people that died, and people die horrific, tragic deaths every day. But to blame illegals, at least have your information right. And it's just not true that they do that. We have no intention of inviting illegals in here or housing them. We are not inviting criminals in. We want safety for this town. The problem right now is that it wasn't addressed by this council until now. And so instead of, you know, it getting, and the police too, you know, I tried to have a meeting with Nikki. It didn't work out. And unfortunately, we did not schedule another one. Well, the evolution of that is here we are. We're having all these meetings because nobody really wanted to address it and talk about it, honestly. And so, you know, now it's become a big circus. But the fact is, all that we want is a declaration, written word, or at least recorded, that our people will be safe. We have black people, we have trans people, we have gay people, we have people that are very threatened in this town. And if you didn't notice last night how threatening it can be, let me tell you, standing up here with all those people yelling at me, well, I'm pretty thick, so, you know, I'm brave and I'll stay here. They're not scaring me. But I don't appreciate them doing it to young people and the people in the town. We have a lot of people.
That's time.
To deal with.
Larry, I believe it's Falby, and it's the Shiloh.
My name is Larry Fahey. Everybody knows me as Lair. And it is about the Shiloh, which you are seeing is no longer just in a certain way of saying. Where I'd like to go with this is focus on the community. I am considering it's going for about 12.8 million, I believe. To keep it going, that will be if it's brought out of bankruptcy and all of that. I am really focused on everyone's input. They're welcome to talk to me if you would like to afterwards. And I'm considering the idea of trying to renovate it. And I would like it if you would all keep that in mind. Just give me your feedback on that. I don't like to see a bunch of condos and that sort of thing come up. So I'll keep it short. This is based on seeing what happens with my breath, with the renovation here, or excuse me, with the bankruptcy on all of this. So you're welcome to just talk to me about this. I'd love to keep a community to be a community. Frank, you may know my mom. Not sure about that. She's mayor. Point of that is, that's in Evans. The point of that is trying to keep the community and the building itself or the organization in one piece. And in doing so, a lot of the people in this community are part of the employees. So I'd like to keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Denise Schubert, Sanctuary City.
Good evening. I've never done this before. I have no written out speech, so I'm scared to death. But I can't believe what's happening in this town. We have been coming here. I live here in Ocean Shores, but we've been coming here for 20 years, and we've seen how the town was, and we fell in love with it. We just finally moved here full-time in October, but we had a camping lot, and we've been here many, many times over the 20 years. And we just love the town, and that's why we wanted to retire here. And what I've seen happening, with the people here over the sanctuary city, it's just terrible. It's really, really bad. I just didn't expect people to act like that in Ocean Shores. I am a Christian. I'm conservative, and I am not against immigration, but it has to be legal. That's all there is to it. It has to be legal. People quoted things on Facebook, one of the scriptures, saying that we are to be welcome to our foreigners. Well, they need to be legal foreigners. And I'm just totally against Sanctuary City, and I'd like to see the town go back to the way it was, where people are nice and friendly to each other and allow other people to voice their opinions without feeling threatened. Thank you.
Okay, this is Stephen Frank, and you're going to have to forgive me here because it says 25 million immigrants, and maybe you can fill in the blank what it says after that, because I think you're writing quickly when you're doing this.
I'm Stephen Frank. We've lived here for 30 years, and I've served in the Air Force, and I'm a Native American, belong to the local tribe, and my 25 million immigrant statement is that, guess what, if 75% of the people that came in are nonviolent or they just came here to work, I agree. You know what? People come from horrible places, and they don't have a place to go. This is a great country to come to, but you have to do it legally. I see me as a candidate now. You let 25 million people in. I'm one of the guys who might get pulled over one day, because me and my family were Indian. But we were placed in this position by that past administration. You feel sorry for policemen. What do you do when you allow 25 million people in? They weren't vetted when they came in. And now when you want to remove them, they have to have a lawyer. They have to go in front of a judge. That should have been done prior to them coming in, and it wasn't. And it's affecting every community, every state. Their economies have basically been broke, a lot of them. So, like I said, we live in a great country. We can't allow 7 billion people to come to our country and think we can take care of them. Anyway, my big concern is, like I said, people come in, they need to do it the right way. And I agree with most of the comments here on it's not being that you don't like immigrants, like I said, but most of the immigrants coming in are probably coming from Mexico, and they're probably Indian, and they look like me. And this is a price we have to pay. We need immigration rules that are followed by everybody. All right, thank you.
Sherry Dooley, ICE and our schools.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Dooley, Ocean Shores resident and a paraeducator at Ocean Shores Elementary School. I heard a lot of people talking yesterday about the little kids in schools. And I just want you to know they are protected. I looked up the instructions or code from OSPI, which is the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I looked at their guidance on ICE in schools, and this is what it says. All students have the right to attend public school, regardless of immigration status. Schools must provide a safe and welcoming environment and cannot discriminate based on immigration status. Student information is protected. Schools should not share records with ICE unless legally required, for example, with a valid court order. If ICE shows up at a school, staff should refer agents to an administrator like the principal. ICE should not access students or campus areas without a valid judicial warrant. Schools are encouraged to have clear procedures to protect student safety and privacy. In short, OSPI's guidance focuses on protecting student rights, privacy, and safety while requiring proper legal process before any immigration enforcement action is on school grounds. Now, I can tell you, our school is locked down. Every single door in our school is locked. The only time it's open is when our kids are coming to school in the morning and they are leaving in the afternoon. Any other time, the doors are locked. No one can get in unless we buzz them in. And if we see ICE at that door, we're not going to let them in. We're going to tell the principal, he's going to call the superintendent, and they're going to handle it. Thank you.
Taylor Priest, don't be fooled.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, citizens of Ocean Shores. Thank you for this time. Because these comments relate to this community, they are relevant to this council. I will be addressing last night. No one is supporting illegal immigration, so I'm confused about why people opposed to the idea of a sanctuary city all echo that they are pro-immigration, if it's legal. It's the same code as I have black friends. It's a justification by racists. No one should be congratulating adults who could not contain themselves last night after repeated admonishments. There is a lot of talk about division in the community. The dividing line between us has a label: bigotry. It's not a playing card, it's a fact. If you don't want to be called a Nazi, don't stand among them. In the effort to find the path ahead, it's important to remember you represent the entire community. While one member of this council has made it clear that he has no intention to honor that promise, to those of you who are sincere about full representation without regard to political party, you should not be fooled into believing the people sitting in this room last night equate to a microcosm of the entire community of Ocean Shores. In fact, some people were intimidated into staying home by the out-of-control mob directed by their pastors to show up. By drumming up fear, rousing a bunch of bigoted evangelicals and Baptists to show up, the Nazi voice made it appear they outnumber decent people who live here. Don't be fooled. People stayed home to avoid potential violence. Nazis spread fear. It's their most powerful weapon. Notice that the people who had to be controlled last night were part of that group. Notice that that one of the bigots actually threatened the council and city, vigorously proclaiming he and his pals would fight if sanctuary status was granted. We listened to one racist after another uttering phrases like "protect our own." That's language straight out of a 1950s KKK meeting. If you're concerned about law and order here, start clamping down on Nazis speeding erratically while they scream obscenities at peaceful protesters instead of worrying about dangerous phantom immigrants who will never appear. The police chief has stood in those protests. Ask her how violent they are. Ask her where the violence comes from. Deal with drunk bigots threatening people because they have a concealed carry permit and feel empowered by police and community tolerance here. I was threatened last night during this meeting by a gun-toting member of the Faith Community Church. His language was filthy, his demeanor thuggish, and his Christian behavior abominable. Their behavior speaks loudly to the value or lack thereof of their fear-induced
That's
message.
time.
Melissa Smith, sunlight is the best disinfectant. No. Whoa, hey.
Kevin!
No.
Oh.
No.
Not worth it, Kevin.
All right, we can
Melissa,
continue,
please.
please.
Oh, I haven't started.
You haven't started it yet.
I haven't started you. Is it, hang on.
Hello?
Wait, my phone went to sleep. Give me just, I'm sorry. You're, I haven't started you yet. You're fine.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and citizens of Ocean Shores. During the January 27th City Council meeting, I shared an alarming incident that happened to a young woman visiting our community for a conference. During my comment, I used a pretty vulgar word. My intent was for those that were listening or attending the council meeting to feel the shock that this young woman felt when verbally assaulted by a man at the recent protest during the Roanoke Conference. Although not my intent, I disrespected the office of the mayor, our city council, and city employees, and for that I sincerely apologize. It was not my intent, and I don't want this to become the new norm. I am not apologizing, however, for bringing to light just how rabid the protesting group has become. All this group has done is formed a deeper divide within our community with no opportunity for civil engagement, and there is no middle ground with them. This group has labeled so many in our community as, well, you just heard it. You heard it. All because we have a difference of opinion or vote differently. Last night and tonight is no different. As one commenter called a council person, the police chief, and those that spoke out against their idea, bigots and racists, as just happened again, it was appalling and disgusting. Another has been posting on social media that those that spoke against becoming a sanctuary city are maggot white Christian nationalists, uninformed, God-fearing racists. While her sister stated she was thinking of opening a store, sarcastic, on Point Brown to sell KKK hoods and robes, with the commenter saying they should sell red handmade tail uniforms and large crosses. Another calls us God-fearing maggots. This is what they think of the majority of Ocean Shores who oppose their beliefs and demands. Listen to them when they tell you how they feel about you. There is no room for any kind of civil conversation with the majority of them. One of them stated that there will be more guns at protests, while many of them threatened city council officials and our local law enforcement with do something or we will at the last council meeting in January. This is not free speech. This is dangerous speech. That is not activism, that is terrorism. Someone is going to get seriously hurt in our community due to their aggression and radical behavior. It's reaching a boiling point. And per the stats that were read about illegals and crimes, the glaring difference that those crimes would have never happened by the illegals if they were not here illegally. Furthermore, it is the job of the mayor and this council to represent all of Ocean Shore citizens and to not bend the knee to unruly mob. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes in-person general public comment. We have two, I believe, that are online, and the first is Gina Rawlings.
Thank you, and it's hard to follow up with all of the comments that have been made, but I wanted to thank the council for their time. I don't think you get paid enough for the time that you've been sitting through all of this the last several days. I appreciated last night when the police chief and the assistant police chief had gone through and informed everyone what the rules are on a sanctuary city. If you live in a sanctuary state, why do you need to have a symbolic declaration of being a sanctuary city? I don't understand. I am the daughter, the granddaughter, the great-granddaughter of immigrants that had to be sponsored, had to have money in their pocket, had to have job and schooling set up before they came to this country. I don't believe that me saying what was fair for my family should be the same for everybody else. And I also know that we have health issues now. Measles are a great outbreak. Mumps, COVID, we've had all of that. Does not help that we've had people that have not been vetted coming into the country. But I still think that what Ocean Shores Council does bleeds into the county, and we want to be supportive. I want to support the businesses in Ocean Shores. And I tell you that it makes it very difficult for me to want to come into town when I'm accosted with signs across my windshield, being yelled at, being threatened, being told that he must die. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't make me feel comfortable or confident in coming into town. And that's oppressive to everyone. And they think they're helping. I don't understand. I wanted to say thank you for the police. I'm very proactive as far as supporting police and fire. And it was important that the information was relayed last night. And I hope that some of these people take it to heart. And it would be nice to just be civil to one another. I hope that we can bridge the gap. The engagement committee has done great strides. And then every time that somebody comes up and calls somebody a name, it takes a little bit more away.
Time.
So, thank you.
All right, and then last, Don Williams, comments on the study session. Don, can we hear you?
Yeah, are we okay?
We are good to go.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Don Williams. I listened to all of the public comments at last night's council study session and noted the Mayor Pro Tem's statement that the council will consider written and spoken public comments as they should, both types. I took notes of the public comments and am able to report a summary in the form of of comments and statements made by the speakers for and against the city becoming a sanctuary city. Here are the numbers I came up with. They're my own numbers, but anyone that wants to take the time can do the same thing. I don't think you're going to find any difference in the result. Here are the numbers. There was a total of 61 who signed up to speak last night. And of that 61, a total of 45 came to the microphone. Of those 45, there were 37 opposed and 8 in favor of becoming a sanctuary city. In percentages, that's 82% opposed, 18% in favor. I think it represented a cross-section of the city. There wasn't any organized speakers flotilla bringing those people in like we've seen on January 27th that created the circus-like environment. I think it was a cross-section of town, and I think the results speak for themselves. I want to also say that I'm very much in favor of what the Mayor Pro Tem said tonight about proceeding to change the council guidelines. They need to be done. I hope the council guidelines will include information about what happens when a meeting gets disrupted. It's very clear. It's stated in the Open Public Meetings Act. And I would like to see, as had to be said last night, the provision that disruptive members, and there were a number, of the disruptors here last night, as they always are, could be escorted out of the meeting by the police. I don't think this meeting ought to be shut down. And after adequate warning, they ought to be kicked the hell out of the meeting. I don't want to even see those disruptors here, and they're always here. So anyhow, I want to thank you for your time. I want to see this go ahead with the change in the improvements in the council guidelines. You might also look at the city's financial guidelines. Remember, those financial guidelines came to the council a year ago last December, and they weren't even considered. They were on the agenda. They were taken off. It's been now 14 or 15 months, and there's been no update in those council financial guidelines, and they're very, very important. So I would think maybe you ought to be doing both guidelines at once, but for sure, work on the council guidelines and put in the provisions of disrupted meetings and how to get people out of them. Thank you very much.
Well, that concludes our public comment section. I want to thank everybody that was polite and kept quiet while our speakers spoke. We don't have an executive session. Agenda review will be Council Member Sires, Griebel, and Klein, and that will be this Thursday, 9 a.m. And we have good of the order, so we'll start with Tom.
There it goes. I don't really have anything to say today. I'm thankful for the ones who are here, the ones that acted correctly, and it is a hard topic, and I understand it's stressful for some people. I'm just hoping that people will take a second thought and know that the citizens are what we need to come together, and a lot of the stuff that we're getting right now is just emotions on both sides. We need to step back and check our emotions.
All right, Lisa Griebel.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, wow, lots of engagement and involvement over the last few weeks. So I do appreciate that and encourage people to exercise their First Amendment rights to be involved. But I do encourage people to take a step back. And while you can be while you're passionate, I would encourage you to be kind and respectful and think about the legacy you leave. Everything now on Facebook, things that you say are recorded, and think about in years to come, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, will they be proud of the way that you expressed your opinion or not? Time will tell. I do want to address my no's at the beginning of the meeting during the amendment. Just a reminder about Robert's Rule of Order. We are supposed to discuss at the end. There's a discussion, but when someone makes a motion, we're supposed to be able to discuss that motion before we vote. And I would have explained why it was no. And one of the things I was appreciative of when our new leadership took over a couple of years ago is that they did a change in the organizational chart. And it was something that our community had asked for, and that was to put citizens, community members at the top of the organizational chart. And while I do appreciate staff time and understand last night was late and tonight was late, we work for our community, our staff works for our community, and I think by moving public comment all the way to the end, without, just in the beginning of the meeting was not appreciative of who we work for, which is our community, and I think it should have stayed at the beginning.
Allison.
Well, I have something totally different and out there. Our local AVERT team is working with the fire department and putting on some workshops that are open to community members, as well as we are always looking for new members for our team, and we are going to have a training for people who are interested in joining the AVERT team. But if you go online to www.graysharborcert.org, you will find more information about the workshops that we're giving and also for the class that will be starting up in April.
Denise.
I also want to thank everybody who came tonight
as well as the couple of hundred people who came yesterday for their community engagement. As Tom already mentioned, this is a difficult topic. It is an emotional topic for those who feel threatened or for those who feel against a sanctuary city. But it really is important that we can respect every other opinion, whether we agree with it or not. I also wanted to thank Vivian. I think she's left already, but her 17 years of rescuing animals is truly amazing. Her commitment to all of our pets, the cats that are not our pets, is extremely admirable, and I hope that the council can find a way to move forward on the trapping ordinance so she is not subject to a criminal prosecution again.
Lisa Scott.
Thank you. Yes, I agree on the trapping ordinance. I had a few, one of my reasons for voting no is I have a few corrections I want to see come forward, and hopefully we'll be working on that as council to bring that back forward. And the last thing I want to do is thank everybody for coming out tonight and sitting through the meeting and listening to all of the good updates our staff had, because I think those are really important, as well as our public comments. And I want to just say that, a reminder that Commissioner Vicki Rains has tendered her letter of resignation for our Grace Harbor County Commissioner. And that is our area. If you are interested, I suggest now's the time. Put your hat in the ring, represent Grace Harbor County, represent Ocean Shores. It's a time for change, and be part of it.
Richard.
Thank you. So other council members have already said most of the things that I would have thought to say. Sherry, I want to appreciate what you told us about the sanctuary status, the immigration status at the grade school. That was informative, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate listening to everybody's public comment. The more civic engagement that we, the citizens of Ocean Shores, engage in, the better our community becomes. And I want to parrot what has been said and are implied. We all have difference of opinion, and I spent 24 years defending your right to have your opinion, and I would give my life to this country for your right to have your opinion, and that's important. But let's stay civil, and not the name calling, not the aggression, not the falsehoods, and I most appreciate informed public comments that have looked up the valid information. Sylvia Fain related some statistics about the crime. I also looked at those statistics today, and the source that I looked at on the internet pretty much agreed with hers. So, yeah, immigration is a very difficult subject, and it deserves more conversation. And this isn't the time for that conversation. I hope that we have a time that we can all come together and find a peaceful solution. So thank you.
All right. Bat and cleanup, Kurt.
Thank you. Yes, I'm that one council member that kept getting called out, and that's fine. First of all, I want to say I completely agree with Councilmember Scott regarding the trapping ordinance. I think we can get there. I was not happy about voting no on it, but it had a single point of failure, that being Vivian, and so I'm hoping we can make it easier for other people to jump in and trap as well. Last night I closed by saying I hope that we could remember that we were neighbors first. After listening carefully to the comments and reflecting on what I've seen since, I want to be honest, I was troubled by some of what I heard from multiple directions. When people start talking about one another instead of to one another, we reduce our neighbors to labels, assumptions, or stereotypes. We stop having a civic conversation at all. Language that dehumanizes people, whether it's directed at immigrants or at those who oppose this issue, has no place here. Disagreement is not the problem. We can disagree strongly. But labeling our neighbors as criminals or racists or bigots or extremists hardens lines, convinces no one, and makes it harder to hear one another. Ocean Shores is not owned by one group, one viewpoint, or one moment in time. It belongs to all of us, longtime residents, newer residents, people who agree, and people who don't. We don't have to like each other to live together, but we do have to treat each other as neighbors. That responsibility belongs to every one of us, including those of us sitting up here. Thank you.
All right. I'm ready to adjourn. Do I get an adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All right. We're adjourned.